After a painfully slow start to the window, Fabrizio Romano last night announced that Chelsea are looking to hijack Inter Milan's deal for young right wing back Marco Palestra. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And we've got a little bit more than that to talk about, but we're going to talk about Marco Palestra. We're also going to talk about Jacobo Ramon, who is a 21, 6'4" centre back from Como that we've also inquired about. And we're going to talk a little bit about Malo Gusto, so let's get into it. Last night, Fabrizio Romano posted this: Chelsea are prepared to offer more than 50 million euros for Marco Palestra, while Inter have been in advanced talks at 45 million euros plus 5 million for a week. CFC would also offer a higher salary than Inter, decision up to the player and Atalanta now. Chelsea also inquired about Wesley, but AS Roma insists to keep him. So this was the first thing that dropped not long before the England game, and it all started kicking off. And towards the end of the England game, Fabrizio Romano posted this: Chelsea have all set to close Marco Palestra deal for fee of over 50 million euros, package in excess of 55 million euros. Atalanta are ready to accept. Italian right wing back, we're going to get into that a little bit more later, offered to earn way more compared to Inter's salary proposal. Final green light needed by Palestra, as Inter won't match the bid. So I'm releasing this in the morning and I'm recording it just before midnight the night before. So chances are this is going out as early as I can get it out, but there is a small chance that maybe this deal has already crossed over the line. But either way, Chelsea are in really advanced talks to sign Marco Palestra. Just before I started recording, this came out. Deal agreed between Chelsea and Atalanta for Palestra, waiting for final green light before the here we go. Inter will not up their bid or salary offer. So we've outbid Inter for this player, and it literally completely falls down. The only reason this now doesn't happen is if Marco Palestra says no to Chelsea, essentially. I reported last week on some interest from us about Marco Palestra, and the news at the time was that potentially he wanted to stay in Italy, and then when the links to Inter Milan started coming out, it was like, right, and obviously they've been negotiating with him for a week now. But it turns out Chelsea were really keen to get this deal done. Ben Jacobs also had something to say on it. Inter are trying to finalise a deal to sign Marco Palestra from Atalanta for a fee over 50 million euros. However, CFC have now entered the race for the 21-year-old, as David Ornstein called, so Orney's been all over it as well. Palestra has also been offered as an option to both Liverpool and Arsenal. So one way or the other, Palestra's leaving this summer, right? And I'd seen Chelsea links to him before. We heard about the Inter Milan stuff, but also he's being offered out to a lot of the biggest clubs. So who's Marco Palestra, right? So in a nutshell, he's a right wing back. Now we're going to get into it a little bit more than that, but what I wanted to do first was just bring up a couple of things that other content creators have been saying across Twitter about the young wing back. JNR posted this: Marco Palestra is surely an Alonso driven target, specialist wing back, insane ball carrier, great athleticism, creates chances and can play on both sides. End of Malo Gusto, I think. We're going to get into that a little bit later. Chelsea looking at perfect system players. So look, the really interesting thing about this is I've been saying it for a little while. It feels like the first few signings that Xabi Alonso makes may well be indicative of the kind of style or formation that we're going to play. And if he's signing someone who is classically a right wing back, now it is a little bit more nuanced than that, and I will get into it later. But if we are going out for a right wing back, then the three at the back is starting to feel like the formation, isn't it? So JNR said that this feels like an Alonso signing, right? Not long after that came out, Pice posted this via Fabrizio Romano: breaking, Xabi Alonso made a call today behind the scenes directly to Palestra. He told Palestra how he can fit into his new Chelsea project. So now, he's 21 years old at the end of the day, so the issue instantly before something like this is, it's another Blueco young player, but this kid has been absolutely smashing it, man. Honestly, like, the reason I didn't cover it more or get too into him is because he potentially said that he wanted to stay in Italy, and I didn't want to get too excited about him, but he looks like a really good player. And if Xabi Alonso is calling him to explain how he fits into the system, that isn't just a Blueco signing, is it, at the end of the day? Xabi Alonso has been a part of identifying this player. They will be working with Blueco in order to find players that can improve the first team, even if they are in and around 21 years old, or, he's not 17, 18 at the end of the day. He's old enough to come into the first team and make a difference. But this is already really promising that we know that Xabi Alonso has had something to do with the signing. And like I said, because he's classically a right wing back, it does feel like we're going to lean towards that three at the back formation. So in terms of the versatility of the player and why it's not just as clear cut as he plays right wing back, therefore three at the back, Vince posted this on Twitter: Marco Palestra can play as a right back too. He played both right back and right wing back for Cagliari last season. But the point is, if we are looking for a right back, there are better options who are more defensive minded than him. That's really important. Palestra has more attributes of a right wing back than a right back, and considering that we also asked for Roma's Wesley, makes it more obvious that we're targeting a right wing back and not a right back. So in the first tweet from Fabrizio Romano, it said that we'd also inquired about 23-year-old Wesley from Roma. He is also a very attacking right wing back. We're looking for a Jeremy Frimpong. That's what's happening here. We're looking for a player who is going to get involved in the attack, and it's not going to be about being a Reece James style right back, for instance. So I found that tweet really interesting, and I decided to do a little deep dive about Palestra, where he plays and what he's capable of, right? So I hopped over to SofaScore and had a look at the last 20 games that Palestra played for Cagliari, because he was on loan at Cagliari from Atalanta, and I checked out his position in the last 20 games, and I found in those 20 games he played at least 4 different positions, and this is the graphic, right? So we'll start on the top left. He has played a right mid in a 4-4-2. On the right of that, he's played a right wing back in a 3-5-2, and the bottom left there, he's played a right winger in a 4-3-3, and on the right on the bottom, he's played a right back in a 4-2-3-1. So he has played everywhere on the right. Essentially, he's just playing on the right all of the time. So really, really, really versatile player. Now, what I will say is, out of those 20 games, he made most of his appearances at right wing back in that 3-5-2. And that seems to be kind of their go-to formation. But it's another interesting thing, isn't it? Because we haven't just identified a right wing back. We've identified a right wing back that is comfortable playing anywhere on the right flank. And that also offers Xabi Alonso flexibility, right? You know, the same kind of flexibility that, you know, potentially we're going to have with someone like a Valentin Barco, for instance. And I'm starting to see, you know, these Swiss Army knife players are perfect for Xabi Alonso's kind of formation that is very adaptable. And like, it's not so much as much as we all talk about it, and I talk about it a lot, but it's not so much just about the formation as it is how can you adapt to each individual game. Does Palestra need to play out on the right as a right wing back and get involved in the attack? Does it, you know, but also have some defensive duty? Do you just play him as a right winger so he can just get involved in the attack, or do you play him as a right back? All of these options seem to be there. So Marco Palestra, who is he? Let's have a little look. Marco Palestra is 21 years old. He says he's a midfielder on SofaScore, but it also said that Grimaldo was a midfielder, right? So we're talking that right midfield, wing back kind of thing, but he can play right back as well. He's 186 centimeters and he's right footed. In the 25-26 season for Cagliari on loan from Atalanta, he played 37 games, got 1 goal and 4 assists, and an overall rating of 7.02. And as you can see from his heat map there, he's a byline guy. He's 100% a right wing back, right? He's not inverting into midfield. He's not doing any of that. He is literally running up and down that right side, that right flank all of the time, but also getting involved in the attacks. And as you can see, occasionally, sometimes has played on the left as well. So the first summer sign-in, look, like I say, I'm making this video the night before because I want to get it out as early as possible, and the news hasn't dropped yet. I keep furiously refreshing Twitter to see if the here we goes arrived, but it hasn't yet. It might do any time now, but at the end of the day, it all completely relies on Marco Palestra being interested in the project. But I think that's already very interesting that Xabi Alonso called him personally to find, you know, to kind of explain to him how he fits his vision and, you know, to try and convince him to come to the team, because like I said, there was some idea that he wanted to stay in Italy. And if he turns down Chelsea, Atalanta won't be super happy because they'll have to take less money for him to go to Inter Milan instead. But also Marco Palestra would be opting to take less wages. So there is an interesting thing in that as well. It's not just about the money that we're offering Atalanta. We're offering more, so that's why they've accepted the deal. But on the player's side, obviously Xabi Alonso's called him, but also we've offered him a much better wage package. So guys, this looks like it's kind of it, right? Like I say, you know, he could say no, but either way, this is the first big link that we've had to a player. And you know, I released a video yesterday, technically today, but yesterday if you're watching this in the morning when I release it, obviously, talking about Chelsea's stealth transfer window, right? And I do think the right thing has been to be quiet about the signings that we want to make. This has been going on in the background, and this will not be the only one. This will absolutely not be the only one. So in light of that, there are some other interesting things to talk about pertaining to this as well. It's starting to look like we've been doing a bit of our shopping in Italy, and again, under the radar, completely quiet about it. Pice posted this from Fabrizio Romano in and around the same time all of the news about Palestra was coming out. New, Chelsea asked Como about Jacobo Ramon. Chelsea have 4 to 5 centre-backs on their list, and I will talk more on this in the next few days. So, Jacobo Ramon, is not a new target. And you know what? I'd literally never heard of this guy until a load of you guys started mentioning him in my comments when we started talking about centre-backs all the way back in February. So he's 21. He's 6'4". He's a big old boy. He's technical. Obviously, he's been with Cesc Fabregas for the last season and a bit. He is another young player, though. So the reason that I do find this one interesting is because also Trevor Chalobah's just been linked with Como, and they think that the money's a little bit too much. So is there a deal to be done where we buy Jacobo, Ramon, and maybe we send Trevor Chalobah their way as well? Now, what that would tell me is that we're still going to go out for the likes of a Maxence Lacroix as well. Because Ramon wouldn't be coming into the Chelsea first team. I wouldn't have thought. Don't get me wrong, he's got Como into the Champions League. Absolutely unbelievable. But I still don't see him being necessarily the right guy. Now, if you guys are tacticos and you know, a couple of you told me about this guy already, tell me, do you think this guy is better than a Maxence Lacroix? Like, we're seeing a lot of links to Maxence Lacroix at the moment. I think that's the kind of guy that we need. A little bit older, a little bit more experience, winning, you know, mentality, because he's won some trophies with Crystal Palace recently. But also, Ramon has been a big part of getting Como into the Champions League and getting them back into Serie A for the first time in like 20 odd years as well. So look, another interesting link there. And like I said, obviously we've got Palestra that looks like it's really close to happening. Maybe it has by now. I'll be interested to see when I wake up. Jacobo Ramon is another centre-back that we're looking at from Italy. And also we inquired about Wesley from Roma. So we've been doing a lot of our shopping in Italy on the sly, and I find that very interesting. The one thing that was mentioned in one of these tweets that I've gone through today, it was JNR, and he said about, I think this spells the end for Malo Gusto, right? So in and around all of this absolute mad amount of news that's coming out, Pice posted this via Fabrizio Romano. Confirmed, Manchester City have interest in Malo Gusto. He has a top relationship with Enzo Maresca. Let's see if there's an opportunity for him to leave or not. Not guaranteed yet. Interesting, right? It's interesting. Now, when this news originally came out in the last couple of weeks, it's the only link for a City player that I've seen that makes sense for me. Genuinely, that makes sense, because like when I saw Cole Palmer and Enzo Fernandez linked to City, I'm like, nah, man, that's not happening, is it? I didn't really see that happening at all. But with Malo Gusto, it makes completely sense when you think about how Maresca used him. Maresca obviously loves Malo Gusto for his across the pitch versatility. You know, Malo Gusto played so many different positions. I mean, he kind of normally always started as a right back, very, very occasionally in midfield, but he would play right back, right wing back, centre midfield like a 6, an 8, a 10, a shadow striker, left wing sometimes, obviously a lot of right wing as well. The only thing he didn't really do is play as a number 9. He played left back, so the only thing he never did was play as a number 9 or a goalkeeper, but he basically played everywhere else on the pitch under his time with Enzo Maresca. Even though his output wasn't really good, Enzo Maresca just kept putting him on and just kept trusting him. And it was really frustrating to watch sometimes, but obviously Enzo Maresca sees something there he really, really likes. Enzo Maresca has now officially, you know, been coronated as the new Man City coach, albeit it's cost them £17 million because he snaked us. But this one, again, this is just making sense to me, man. This is absolutely just making sense to me. The only thing that doesn't necessarily make sense is the issue it leaves us with, because if we buy Palestra, cool, think he looks great. Is he an upgrade on Malo Gusto? You would hazard a go at yes, even by the cursory things like looking at their SofaScore ratings. I think Malo Gusto was like 6.69 and Palestra was 7.02, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a big gap. Like, to be consistently good enough to have a green rating on SofaScore means you're generally quite a good player. The output was very, very, very similar. I think it was like Palestra got 1 goal and 4 assists and Malo Gusto got like 2 goals and 3 assists across the season. So look, it's a weird one, because when you think about Grimaldo and Jeremy Frimpong under Xabi Alonso, those guys were getting like 24, 25 GA each per season. Do you know what I mean? It was absolutely wild and crazy stuff. And neither Malo Gusto nor Palestra thus far have shown that they can do that. But also, Grimaldo and Frimpong weren't doing that before Xabi Alonso got a hold of them. So, look, it's possible that we could do this to Malo Gusto. It's possible that that's what Xabi Alonso sees in Palestra. But I just have a feeling that it just makes sense. And I think that City would pay a pretty penny for Malo Gusto as well, to be completely honest. We bought him for 20 mil a couple of years ago. I think we get 40, 45 mil easy for Malo Gusto. Maybe more than that, to be honest, because we know intimately how much Enzo Maresca likes him and how integral he could be to Maresca's version of the Man City system, right? So yeah, like I say, for me, the issue that leaves us is depth, because okay, we go out and at the moment, if we buy Palestra and keep Gusto, we've got 2 right-sided players for that spot. And I know a lot of you have been talking about like Quenda and Pedro Neto and stuff, it's like I don't see us going for inverted wing backs. I don't think the balance works, and you don't see it very often either. I could be 100% wrong, absolutely, but I don't really see it happening. Jamie Gittins maybe is an option on that side as well. When when you think that Frimpong wasn't actually a right back, he was a winger that got converted into a right wing back. Same sort of way Victor Moses did, for instance. So maybe there's some potential there, but I don't know if that's the plan for sure. But either way, if we were to sell Malo Gusto and buy in Palestra, that's like 1 for 1, and it still leaves us in a situation where if we want more people like of that profile, then we don't have many, so we'd have to go out and buy someone else. So guys, that's kind of all of the news around it, but my musings are generally, I really like the look of Palestra. I like the look of Palestra when we checked him out before. I just didn't think it was super realistic because it looked like he wanted to stay in Italy. But at the end of the day, Xabi Alonso's belled him up and been like, mate, come over, it's going to be sweet, this is what I'm going to do with you. Jacobo Ramon is going to be talked about in the next couple of days. I have a feeling that Trevor Chalobah might be part of that deal. Watch this space. Let's see what happens with that. I think it's really, really interesting. The right wing back element seems to make it not nailed on, but it seems to indicate that we'd be heading more towards that kind of 3 at the back system, doesn't it? And maybe we are going to try and build around that, which is really, really, really interesting, which, does make sense of looking at like a Leclerc and a Ramon, and that's still going to offer opportunities for the likes of Josh Achiampong, Levi Colwill, and Mamadou Sarr. We're going to have still need a lot of centre-backs because we'll kind of always be playing 3. Reece James, obviously, will probably play there quite a lot as well. So guys, let me know what you think about it, man. Like I say, I kind of hope it hasn't happened by the time this video comes out, but you never know. Football's such a crazy beast. If we have signed Marco Palestra, tell me, are you excited about it? If we haven't signed him as of yet, do you think that we should? What do you think of the look of Jacobo Ramon? I think it's interesting because it was a couple of you guys that turned me onto him in the first place. And are we ready to see the back of Malo Gusto, or do you think if we bought Palestra and sold Malo Gusto, we'd need to go out and get another right wing back? Nice one, guys. Thanks very much for sticking around until the end of the video. If you did, I'll catch up with you all very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.